and welcome to the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I pray you're well, fam, in all your ways, and that you are living your best life. Thanks to every single person that subscribes to the channel. You guys are absolutely amazing. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for all the likes and shares and subscribes, fam, and for all those people who financially support us through our, PayPal and our Patreon account. I'm here in a secret garden somewhere in the Gambia, reporting live and direct. And what I wanted to bring is a story. Thanks to everyone, by the way, all my secret journalists out there who are always sharing, very important stories. Now, this is a story that was shared a couple of weeks ago. It's actually a research report that was released by Cambridge University last year. But with everything that's happening with the coronavirus, I really do believe that it is time, it is important for us to pay attention because, as I said, we're looking at the patterns on this channel, because what we've seen is that the enemy of our soul, the destroyer, he often actually how do I put this? He will often tell you what he's doing because he needs humanity to buy into it so that it can actually manifest on earth. So we need to be convinced that there's a massive virus pandemic out there that's going to kill millions of people before the virus can even penetrate spiritually and physically and actually do that. But those are stories for other days. And if if you're into this kind of stuff, definitely check out my new channel, Dr. Mumbi Live. But what happened is that Cambridge University actually released a report last year where they said that the world must prepare for biological weapons that target ethnic groups based on genetics. Now, this is something I said, last year there was this massive drive where a lot of our African American brothers and sisters really wanted to find out who they were. But what we found is that they were actually creating a massive database of African DNA, and they wanted to expand that. We also saw that governments like the British government were actually keeping the DNA samples and the images of certain criminals, but mainly black youth, in an attempt to kind of control them. And they were saying, and there was a lot of racial profiling, but they were trying to say it would help them to have this criminal database. But what is worrying is that now all these databases, the technology, and this is what Cambridge University was actually saying, their Center for the Study for Existential Risk, they actually said that the government was failing to prepare for human-driven catastrophic risks that could lead to mass harm and social collapse. And they talked about how advances in science such as genetic engineering and artificial intelligence, as well as autonomous vehicles, have opened up a whole new Pandora's box where if the enemy of our souls, they were talking about, if a terrorist organization was, to get a hold of this kind of, access to this kind of technology, they could do a lot of harm. And we've seen all the James Bond movies, which talk of this massive human villain. But what if the human villain is actually the powers that be and these globalist government that are trying to now put into place, a militaristic government, and they're trying to limit, the movement of people, and they've achieved so much from what they're calling the quote-unquote coronavirus, or is it a corona hoax? Stories for other days. You know what? Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
Wake up, Africa!
Welcome back to the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? Special shout out to all my PayPal and Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for making my trip to West Africa, possible, and for helping it to be such a success. There is much knowledge that I will be sharing with you, in future episodes. Be sure also to, subscribe to our sister channel, Dr. Mumbi Live. Now, we're talking about a recent report released by the Cambridge University, which said that the world must prepare for biological weapons that target ethnic groups based on genetics. Now, we've been talking about eugenics, and in fact, the entire global family. If you're not aware of this, then really you need to wake up. The entire global family is becoming increasingly aware of how we have been the target of an eugenics agenda, and where there is an attempt to kind of diminish, our numbers. But we are such a spiritual people that the more they try and diminish our numbers, the more we multiply, So, you kill one, we return as 10. Stories for other days. So now what Cambridge University said is, more nefarious hands. They were basically talking about the new threats because of all this advanced technology and the fact that they can even manipulate genes, and so they can put a disease into you, just like they can remove a disease out of you. They're saying they know the Alzheimer's gene and all these other genes, and so they can remove this as a child. They can also put, diseases into you, and you best believe that is their agenda. And so, what they said, and I quote, this report from Cambridge University, just basically said that more nefarious hands could, as they have before, develop pathogens and toxins to spread through the air, food and water sources, and the tech is becoming increasingly sophisticated at even cheaper prices, demonstrating the ability to harm more people more quickly and more lethally. In a particular bad case, a bioweapon could be built to target specific ethnic groups based on its genomic profile. The report also warned that artificial intelligence is starting to display human intuition, and if it is able to develop its own goals and its own strategies and actually fulfill them, it could become extremely harmful and potentially unstoppable. Now, the reason this is important to us is not only because, I'm sure you know that stuff like AIDS and Ebola are germ warfare targeting our people and trying to reduce our population. But more important than that is that in the last few years, every artificial intelligence, like the mega artificial intelligence conferences, they're usually held in Canada. And what has happened is every year, hundreds and hundreds, I think even last year it reached 500 African scientists, African, artificial intelligence experts were denied visas to, I think the thing happens in Montreal or somewhere, but were denied visas to Canada. And so the black voice and the black presence was missing. And what we've seen with all this, advances in facial recognition is that some of this technology is allegedly geared to recognize like a black person, but can differentiate between black features and just lumps us all in one thing. So, if our scientists are being denied entrance or are being denied, access to the global discussion on all this latest technology, if we already know, you need to read books like, I think there's one, AIDS, Ebola, and something. It was written by a guy called something Horowitz. And he talks about how AIDS and Ebola were basically germ warfare targeting, the African population. And I'm really appealing to the governments of our nation to, not just, all our nations, to really start to take this information seriously, because they say, the best way to hide information from a black man is to put it in a book, because we don't read. And you see, we didn't have to read before because we were more spiritually deep, so the information would naturally reach us. But now we're not only spiritually disconnected, but then we're not even keep reading to know what's up and what the enemy of our soul is doing. But, that's why I say raise your vibration, rise higher, family, so that all these things of the world, all these material games of the world have no impact and no effect on your life. But best believe, they may be talking about it now, but this thing of, weaponizing diseases, weaponizing food, weaponizing water is already very much here. So my appeal is that you start to return to nature, start to return to the ways of our ancestors, start to go deeper spiritually so that you can set yourself free from the matrix and you don't allow the matrix to rob you of your liberation. Until next time, fam. Mwah!